Moving right along into respiratory acidosis now, part of the concept of acid-base. Hold on to your seats. Here's a link to the lesson plan regarding acid-base. It's the same as the acid-base concept. They can also be found in Blackboard if you have trouble getting the link to work. Let's jump on into respiratory acidosis. Respiratory acidosis is caused by too much CO2. Remember, CO2 plus water is carbonic acid. So we've just got too much acid in the body, and it's because of a respiratory disorder or respiratory cause. One of the most common reasons for this is hypoventilation or some type of obstructive process in the respiratory system. With respiratory acidosis, it's the kidneys or the renal system that tries to help out by compensating. It's going to start excreting more of those hydrogen ions in hopes to get some more bicarbonate back out into the blood. This is a slower process than the respiratory compensation. Remember, it takes time. I have a list of here some common causes for a respiratory acidosis, and they all have something in common. They all kind of have a problem with ventilation or gas exchange. Whatever's going on is preventing that from happening fully. So that's going to cause the patient to kind of hold on to some of that CO2. And just a review, CO2 plus water is carbonic acid. So when they can't breathe off that CO2, it's going to cause them to kind of hang on to those acids, which is going to cause that pH to fall and make them be more in an acidic state. In clients with chronic respiratory acidosis like COPD, the CO2 stays elevated over time and just kind of remains elevated. That's going to have some changes on that little respiratory center in the brain, and it's just less responsive to stimulus. So when we give oxygen, we have to be very, very cautious that it doesn't shut down the respiratory drive. Here's a list of various effects from respiratory acidosis, including some acute versus chronic. With acute, you can see that the effects are a little bit more clear, they stand out a little bit more, versus chronic, they're a little bit more vague. The difference is, with chronic acidosis, the renal system has had a chance to try to kick in and compensate. Diagnostic testing in respiratory acidosis will obviously include an ABG, but it's also going to probably include an electrolyte panel with a lot of attention to that potassium level because of the accompanying hyperkalemia that can occur. We'll also want to look at that, the pulmonary function test, to kind of see what's going on with the respiratory system. Again, we really have to look at the underlying cause of the respiratory acidosis and try and reverse that. If it's because of an airway issue where it's closed, inflamed, or tight, we want to give those bronchodilators to open it up. Conversely, if it's due to an opioid ingestion, we may have to give Narcan as a reversal agent. Here are some independent and collaborative nursing actions. Just like before, I want you to kind of really look at these actions and understand why we are doing them. If you have questions about any of these, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Here are some additional nursing actions, and some of these are pretty important. A lot of these, if you look at the list, are going to help improve ventilation or improve that gas exchange. Fowler's or semi-Fowler's position. That pursed lip breathing, that helps breathe off additional CO2. All these can help our clients with respiratory acidosis. Here's a list of some of the resources I used. And again, I also used the MedSurg book that you have from Workman and Ignatavius. There's a couple of links here for an article as well as a video. If you have any trouble reaching those or getting those, don't hesitate to reach out. Next up, respiratory alkalosis, the final chapter of our acid-base concept.